Hello and welcome to a mid-season review here on the Blue Abroad YouTube channel for our Carlton Football Club. I think it goes without saying, footy's very much, and sport is very much one of the more unpredictable things that we watch. Supporting this club is very much the same, very much unpredictable, very difficult to find a pattern and be able to rely on it. And as we sit here halfway through the season in 2023, we have a record of 4 wins, 7 losses and a draw. And of all the things that I thought may have happened up until this point, this was certainly not one of them. Losing 5 in a row was certainly not one of them. And so right now we find ourselves in a situation which is really not dissimilar to a situation that we've experienced before. Really, if you put ourselves in, the halfway point of the season today, 2 years ago, and 2 years before that, I think we find quite a few similarities. And it has become a difficult time for the supporters. It's become a difficult time for everybody involved. And again, did not expect to be talking about a mid-season review where it is really starting to look eerily similar to those poor patches of ours where the inevitable happens, or the so-called inevitable happens, where people's jobs are at stake, people are questioned, and the like. Now, I don't know what's going to happen in the second half of the season. None of us do. I think when we look at what has worked in season 2023, if we give a full snapshot of where we find ourselves right now, just bare and factual, we rank pretty well in the competition. 2nd for kicks, 4th for disposals, 3rd for marks, 5th for opponent points per game, 3rd for kicks per game differential, 1st for disposals per game differential, and 2nd for marks per game differential. So when I hear that and I read that, I say to myself, we have no issue winning the ball. When I look at our lower rankings, 15th in points per game, 14th in tackles per game, 14th in inside 50s per game, 17th in goal assists, 14th in clangers, the list goes on. And so really, to summarize, we don't have an issue winning the football. We have an issue using the football. And this is part of the evolution of the team that for whatever reason just hasn't come yet. Now, is it going to come? Don't know. You would think it's going to come. You would think in anything you have upward patches, you have downward patches. Now, unfortunately for me right now, it's really difficult to latch onto something. I've spoken at length about how I feel lost as a supporter, and it feels like the worst place to be in. And part of the reason for that is the expectation. And part of the reason for the expectation is because this is a core group of players that was put together, from the 2015 draft onwards, we'll call it. Obviously, Cripps was at the club already at that time. Doherty was as well. But we'll call it the core group. We all went on a journey together at the end of 2015, start of 2016, and who would have thought 5 years later, or 8 years later, I should say, 7.5, we're in the 8th season from that we are talking about a team that is struggling to score, struggling to tackle, struggling to use the ball. And so that leads me to believe that the foundations potentially weren't set in the way that they should have been, or the way that we were told that they were. Now, it's quite funny because just when you think you've got a read on anything, things can change. Now, am I hopeful that something can happen in the second half of the season? Of course, I'm hopeful. Do I trust that something different will happen in the second half of the season? That's the part where I struggle with at the moment. And so I battle at the moment back and forth between, you want to be really honest about how you're feeling as a supporter, but then you watch the external noise that's going into the club from the mainstream media, from the content creators, from everyone. And I start to think about that and, not wanting to be part of that noise, but not to the point where you can't just be positive. You can't only be positive. I think there's a level of realness that has to happen here. But what I've seen is just a reality, and that is our boys, our players, our club. Our club can't handle the expectation. Our club can't handle the pressure yet. There's just an inability. There's a block. And it leads us all to ask so many questions, and it leads us all to find so many different angles as to why that may be, to the point where we're out here arguing why X player should be playing instead of this player, when really that's just something on the surface. Saying I told you so because this player should be playing is really just a distraction. And it feels like something deeper. And the reason why I say that is because when I watch the team, and I don't know if there's a stat for this, when I watch the team so far this year, there's a connection issue. There's a soul. There's a feeling. I just saw a clip of our round 2 win against the Cats and the roar of the crowd. And it got me a bit warm and fuzzy inside, because that roar and that excitement is why I'm a Carlton supporter. And I think it's probably why we all are Carlton supporters, give or take. We have family ties. We have different stories as to how we became supporters. But ultimately, going to the football, hearing that roar, it's beyond anything that you can feel as a spectator of anything. And you really do feel like you're a part of something, because it allows you for a moment to just get out of your body and into this feeling. And the crazy part about it all is we haven't even been a successful team yet we still have little droplets of that feeling when we play well or when we win here and there. And that is the most bizarre part about this entire journey. We just haven't yet experienced a team for a full season that we look at and we say, wow. Now, 2022 was a bit of that. Let's not lie. The first 10 rounds, that was what I think most of us felt to be the quote unquote turning point, after years of, bringing in players who we thought were going to be, the cherry on top, so to speak. When we brought in Zach Williams and Adam Saad, or even if we go back and we bring in Mitch McGovern and he's going to be the leader in the forward line to help Charlie and Harry develop, then Williams and Saad, who we thought were just going to be the missing pieces, and then, Hewitt and Chera. And there's a few that I'm missing there, Lewis Young. And again, we seem to find ourselves back in this hole. And, with that comes a discussion. Like, I can't believe we just finished round 12. We're sitting here talking about, is the coach going to stay? Is he going to go? It's crazy. It's crazy. So like I said, we don't have an issue winning the ball. We have an issue using the ball. And I can understand that the players are feeling it. I can understand that everybody's feeling it. And that's why, whatever happens in the second part of the season is ultimately going to probably help us determine who's moving forward with us. Because let's just say whether the season's alive, like it is alive mathematically, so technically it is alive, but if it falls away and we get to a situation where we just can't make finals, for example, and we know we've outlined that pretty clearly as that's part of the story to winning a premiership, playing finals football, then we're going to find out who's staying with us and who's not. And that's just not where I don't think many people thought we would be in this situation, but we are, and that's what it is. And it's really easy to get caught up in the moment, in the heat of it right now. And so I've had to not distance myself from this season, but try and look at things more holistically, more from a lifetime point of view. We are going to be watching these games forever, whether we go to them or whether we don't go to them, whether we've given up, whether we've had enough, we'll be tuning in. We might be tuning in, and then we get to halftime, and if it's not good, we turn it off or we move on. But when that first bounce happens, we're all tuning in. So that's a lifetime commitment. These people that don the monogram, they come and they go. We've seen various lists come and go, many variations of a Carlton player come and go. And I find that we're stuck between this mentality of what the Carlton Football Club used to be and the reality of what the Carlton Football Club is now, today. And now on the field, it represented success, determination, willingness, win at all costs, body on the line, playing for something greater than oneself. And unfortunately today, it's just not that. It is a fractured on-field group. It is a disconnected on-field group. It is an underperforming on-field group. Now, that might be too simple in judging a football club. But at the end of the day, I think everyone started watching Carlton because of the football. That's it. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe people engage with the Carlton Football Club for other reasons. But I would hazard a guess, and maybe I can only speak for myself. It's only the football. It's only the on-field that is the reason why I am interested in this club. And I think somewhere along the line, we've lost that hyper focus to get it right on the field. And the reason why I say that is because what we are watching on the field over the course of really most, if not all of my life, is a playing group who constantly get to a point where the pressure mounts and then it just starts falling apart. They're going to have to dig deep once again and figure their way out of it. There is an evolution that must happen, no doubt. There is nothing that I think any of our fans can say that the players and everyone on the inside isn't probably saying to themselves. If anything, it probably hurts them more because they know it and they show up and they perform, or they don't perform, and then they know that they've let those words down and those promises down. So is it a situation of just going back to the basics, finding that why, finding that purpose for why they play football again? I don't know, but we can't afford to be watching a second half of the season like what we've watched in the first half. If it's over, then we need to think about who's going to be there for the future. We need to start seeing something, because right now I feel like we're in a dangerous spot. We haven't had a win in a long time. Losing just compounds. So does winning. And so, we'll get to the Bombers in the preview for that in round 13. But I just wanted this to be a bit more of a reflection on the season to date. Early in the season, we banked a few wins. I think I latched on to the fact that, at the start of last year, we won games really well and we were playing this exciting brand of football, and there was a real commitment from everyone. There was a connection, there was trust. And then obviously the notion of that this year was, we don't want to peak too early. So that's why I took positives out of what we saw at the start, in that we weren't playing well, but we were winning games of football. So I thought, that's just going to improve. We don't want to peak too early. Unfortunately, from that point onwards, from 3 wins and a draw, it's been what it's been. So, yeah, bitterly disappointing with what I've seen so far. But there's always hope for better days. Now, whether the better days come in this season or whether they come at a later stage in life, I don't know. But yeah, there's just a realization this is not a mighty football club. That's just not what we are. We are a mighty fan base. We are a mighty fan base. We are a passionate fan base. But right now, the reality is we are not a good team on the field. And that's okay. And that is okay as long as it's understood and as long as we can get there collectively and then build towards getting it to where it needs to go. So the fear element looks like it's there, whether it's a fear of failure, fear of losing one's position in the side. And so the big challenge ahead is, how do you galvanize a group that is at this point right now? Because what we've done in the past is get to this point, fire a coach, and then the pressure's sort of off because the season's dead, and then we start playing freely. So, they say pressure makes diamonds, and that sounds really nice. And it does. Pressure does make diamonds. So I guess the question is, are we going to start seeing the fruits of this pressure and the fruits of this labor and all this work that we've been putting in as a team, in the preseason and during the season to rectify it? Or are we going to continue to somewhat spiral? And that's the great unknown. Right now, it feels like it just can't get any worse. But hopefully, by the time I'm doing this end of season review, it's a bit of a different tone. And I'm trying to think of myself in the future and wonder if he's going to be laughing at me, or if he's just going to be like, mate, you knew what this was. You knew exactly what was going to happen. So yeah, bitterly disappointing first half of the season, and just left with hope that the excuses can stop and the doing can start. And that's my summary. What about you? How have you seen the first half of season 2023? Shed with us your thoughts in the comments below. We'll go from there. Go Blues.